Commandos, best equipped boys in the field. All the equipment you need for fun and excitement in the Gung-Ho Commando outfit by Marks. Just look at all the things you get. There's a battle map and direction-finding compass, a cat shooting automatic with gun belt and holster, a helmet, a canteen, complete mess kit and poncho. You get a cat-firing Gung-Ho hand grenade.
Gung-Ho!
And look here, this flashing battery-powered machine gun with moving ammo belt shoots rapid-fire bullets. There's a real-looking walkie-talkie, too, and a field pack. You get non-com stripes, medals and battle ribbons, even dog tags. It's all for fun and excitement.
Gung-Ho!
Get the outfit with all the equipment you need. The Gung-Ho Commando outfit.
Gung-Ho!
By Marks.
Hi, this is my friend, the Grumman Tiger. It's a jet, and I'm Ralph Donald, its test pilot. It takes a lot of training to control one of these babies. My son Wayne will learn someday. Right now, though, he's getting ready by learning to control a Lionel electric train. With a Lionel train, you not only get locomotives and cars, but all sorts of missile and rocket equipment, too. You can learn to operate these Lionel missile launchers. And fire this IRBM launcher by pressing a button. Wow!
And you'll always be ready for anything. Ask for Ideal's new Roy Rogers quick shooter hat.
Marshal, he just dug up the bank. He's headed for Deadwood.
You'll never get away with this, Slippery Sam.
Marshal Bob is riding Blaze, the fabulous new galloping horse from Mattel. See, his legs actually move just like a real horse. There's no other riding horse anywhere that gallops like Blaze. Now watch this. When you bounce on Blaze, he romps along like a frisky colt. He gallops when you rock back and forth on him, but he's so safe you just can't tip over. Blaze is the safest, strongest horse made.
Okay, Slippery. This is the end of the line.
Almost got away, Marshal, if it weren't for that lightning-fast horse of yours. Where'd you get him?
You can get my...
Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da. Geek to Me Radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. 3 guests tonight. We've got actor Joshua Bitton talking about his film, The Tangle. We'll then talk with composer Dino Menigan about Dota, Dragon's Blood on Netflix. Finally, Yu Takeuchi will be with us talking about his brand new film, Drive All Night. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area right now, listening to us on the big 550 KTRS, thanks for tuning in. If you're out there in the world streaming us on the stream at ktrs.com/stream, thank you for finding us. And of course, if you're on the live stream right now on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and we're on Facebook, Joey. Facebook's the other one. Facebook's the other one. Thanks for tuning in there. Full show. We're going to get right to it for maximum time for our guest. Right now, we've got on the line with us actor Joshua Bitton. How are you, sir? Well, I cannot. Let me try that again. You can hear me okay? Oh, you know what? I wonder if I got... Sorry, this is the first time I've used this video system, so maybe I'm off on the setup for it. It shouldn't be muted there. You can hear me okay, though. All right, hadn't run into this issue. Let me... Sorry about that. We're working on the technical aspect, but yeah, Joshua's here. He's got a new movie, or not a new movie. The Tangle is out, though. Video on demand on March 19th, I believe. Is that correct? Perfect. So let me, real quick, Joey's my tech guy, and I'm trying to figure this out with him. Let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick pause. We're going to throw a commercial up, and we're going to try to resolve this. We'll come right back to you, so please stand by.
Okay.
Indeed knows unexpected demand can stretch your business thin.
Leon speaking.
Like at Leon's Plumbing.
Sorry, quickest we can get there is next Friday.
To stay out of hot water, he needs to get started hiring right away.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. And the moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first sponsored job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, this is David Mazouz, and you're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
Okay, I think I've figured out the problem, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you listening, the problem is I'm an idiot, but we got it resolved now. Joshua, I think I've got you. Can you hear me?
I can.
There we go, and I can hear you perfect. Okay, thanks for bearing with me through that. We're, live show, it's always like doing live theater. It's always fun running into the technical aspects and little things like that. So thanks for the time tonight. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, man, I'm really thrilled to be here. I was saying that's the best intro music I've ever heard. I was having the best time before we even started talking.
Thank you very much. I wrote the parody, and then I had a friend of mine sang the lyrics for that. Is it too hot?
It's fantastic. It's so good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So the Tangle, I just saw the preview for it. They downloaded it. The preview is immediately intriguing. I mean, you've got all these elements of there's the whodunit, the kind of someone is in this box and they died. How could that have been? Then you got that futuristic tech element. And in my mind, I always liken movies to crosses between two other movies that I really like. And it kind of had the noir feel of LA Confidential meets kind of like the Matrix and a little bit of Blade Runner stuff. It's very a cool feeling. Talk a little bit about, well, let's start with the casting process. What was the casting process like for you to get part of this movie?
Well, Christopher Soren Kelly, who wrote and directed it, is someone that I've worked with before. He had an award-winning short that him and I starred opposite each other in. So I didn't know it at the time, but when he wrote The Tangle, he wrote it for me, or the role for me. Wow. So he called me and said, hey, man, would you give this a read? And I gave it a read just to really kind of give him my thoughts on the script as a sort of friend. And he said, do you like it? And I said, yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think it's really dense. It's really, your comparisons are exactly right on. It's got a Blade Runner vibe. It's got an LA Confidential vibe. And I loved that, and I thought it'd be super challenging. And he said, I would love for you to play Carter in this film. And at that moment, I realized that I had just signed up for something that was going to challenge me pretty hardcore. So it was about as easy a casting process as I've had, to be honest.
That must be nice. Yeah, and you've been in so many other projects. I mean, I was going over your IMDb resume. It's very impressive, the amount of TV and film you've been in from all the sort of stuff. When you're taking on roles, obviously, like you said, you already knew him prior to coming onto this project. What draws you to certain roles? What do you look for when you take on projects and different roles that you've been in?
I think the thing that draws me the most to a role is the sort of depth and level of the humanity of the character in the world. I've been really lucky, to do some really, really cool layered projects for, a couple for HBO, one for CBS All Access, a ton of great TV. And for me, if it rings true, if it has a real sense of truth to it, then I know that my experience with it is going to be something that that's going to make it a personal performance, that it's going to come from me. That's sort of what I want, I think, more than anything, is to have my guts on the table if I'm lucky enough to have that kind of role. And this was definitely one of those. And in that regard, I've been pretty lucky to get roles that really kind of challenge, this sort of depth that I'm willing to go.
And this is, as we mentioned, out on video on demand as of the 19th. Was any of this filmed during the pandemic? Was any of the filming interrupted for the pandemic, or was this kind of already in the can by the time everything hit the fan?
This was in the can when it all hit the fan. We had won a number of film festivals, smaller film festivals around the country, and we're sort of prepping up, talking to distributors about a theatrical release when everything crashed. So I think, as the most wonderfully used word in 2020 into early 2021, we or they, our producers had to learn how to pivot. And so that pivot went to a video on demand release when we started to realize that what people kind of needed more than anything was new content. And so they found a distributor that was really excited about the film in a way that made them feel strong to sort of hand it over to them. And that is where we are.
As an actor, obviously, you kind of have your expectations set up when you do a project and when you finish it and when it gets ready to be released. Were there any? Obviously, this stuff is out of our control. The pandemic and everything, the way things played out. Was there any sense at all of like, I was really looking forward to a theatrical release? Or as the actor, do you kind of divorce yourself from that? The job is done. However it's released is released, and it's kind of out of your hands, as it were.
I think initially I had that, this was the kind of movie that I wanted to sort of see and feel in a theater what an audience's response would be. But as we all kind of got deeper and deeper into this, I just felt, I felt lucky to be part of something that was going to get out there. So I kind of emotionally pivoted myself, I guess I would say, because, at first, I think a lot of us, I thought this was going to be 6 weeks, and then 3 months, and then 6 months, and now here we are a year in, and now I feel like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is super exciting. But once I realized how entrenched we were in this, I felt just lucky to be healthy, and whatever else was going to come was going to come. Yeah,
I often feel like we're currently in the 15th month of 2020 as we move forward with this, but hopefully we're seeing the light, as you say.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly put, man.
And you've worked on, like I said, so many other great projects that we've got. One of my favorite TV series is Castle. And I have to think that just with that cast and the things I've heard about the crew who worked on that, had to have been a blast to come back and do it not once but twice.
It 100% was. And what's really funny is about 2 weeks ago, I shot an episode of The Rookie, and I got to work with Nathan again. And he's the best dude in the world. And so was Seamus, and so was John, and so was Stana. Like, when I was on that set, one of the things that I want everybody who's a fan of Castle to know is that the cast and the crew and the designers and the producers were all friends. So you walked onto that set. I walked into a big, giant family. And a lot of times when you're in, it takes a little while for people to warm up to you. But this set was completely different. Those people were like, welcome. We know you're here with us for at least a few weeks, maybe longer. So we want you to feel part of this. I remember a crew member coming up to me and being like, you're here long enough, you're going to be at all of our houses for barbecues, because this is how we roll. And on The Rookie, there's a lot of people who worked on Castle that Nathan recruited who are part of the crew there, because he wants to take care of his people and he wants to be surrounded by the people who he trusts and loves. So it was exactly what you're saying, and more so.
Good. Very nice. That's always encouraging to know, especially when the show is that beloved, that you want to hear nice things. That's always good to know for sure. And we worked all the other projects you worked on, Without a Trace, Justified, Harry's Law, which I love that show too. Has there been one of your series appearances that you've done that's kind of been a standout? It sounds like you had a great experience on Castle both times, but has there been one that you really like is the gold standard as far as all the TV projects you've worked on?
Well, I mean, there's sort of two answers, because you mentioned one. I had a one-episode guest star in Harry's Law that felt like one of the more important things I ever got to do. It was I played a character whose brother was in a car. We were in a car accident together, and my brother needed blood, and I happened to be the same blood type, and the character was gay. And this is still a law in the United States. Gay men cannot donate blood in this country. So in the episode, since AIDS, the AIDS epidemic in, I think, 81 or 82, they passed that law. So in the episode, I was trying to save my brother who was dying, and they wouldn't take my blood. And so I had this amazing David E. Kelly written speech in a courtroom, really, really standing up and really saying all the things that so many of my friends and people I've grown up around have fought through. That was I felt that one was important, and I felt like there was a responsibility on my shoulders to deliver that with truth. The greatest job I think I've ever had was the miniseries The Pacific for HBO. That follow-up to Band of Brothers gave me 10 of my greatest friends in the world. Was one of the greatest artistic experiences of my life. We shot in Australia. It was the ultimate level of playing war, where things blew up and people fell down and bodies exploded, and then you got to kind of like laugh and have dinner together after it was over. But also felt important because we were all playing real men and women. And so there was this kind of sense of we get the honor of telling their story. and it gave me a different point of view of the military, or a different look at the men and women in the military. The realization that what they do for each other. That it's so rarely politics, but it's brother and sisterhood and family. And I got to work with some of the greatest men and women past since the show came out. So that was truly an honor. Also, I think the last war we've been in as a country, where very few, if any, people have qualms about our entering into that war. It seemed to lack, division politically, and was the kind of war where we were going to fight, two countries in Japan and Germany that were trying to take over, dominate, and destroy major portions of the world. So it to me, there's a moral righteousness to that war. So when you get to step into the shoes of the men and women that fought in it, you also realize that for them, it was a destructive personal experience. And so no one was trying to glorify the war with the Pacific. We were trying to show the toll it took on people, regardless of how revered their fight was. And I thought that was a massive responsibility, to really dig into the souls of these people as best we could. And I only hope that we did them proud. I really do. I hope that so much. And for the men and women in the military now who watched it. I was approached by a couple of Marines one day while I was eating lunch outside, and a guy recognized me from the show, and he said the best thing I've ever heard. He walked up to me and he said, "You guys did it right. You guys got it right, and we all love you for it." And I got choked up.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to finish my meal. You know what I mean? That was the height of it. That was pretty amazing.
No doubt. And again, The Tangle is on video on demand March 19th, so it's already out. So if you're after you get done with listening to this show, then you can go watch it, because we've got a bunch of other guests coming up. If you were to say one thing, like people who are just now tuning in and they're hearing about The Tangle, what's the one thing you would say that is the big takeaway of getting them to watch The Tangle?
This film operates in a world where everyone is literally physically connected to the internet. So freedom of thought is almost gone. And Chris Kelly takes that idea and he marries it with this 50s noir style. So it's got this super cool, super fast-paced language that you really got to pay attention to, with ideas that we're really just on the verge of. So it's interesting to dive into it, on top of the fact that he's created a locked room whodunit that really surprised me when I wrote it, and when I read the script, I should say. Didn't write it, I mean, and that was him, and seems to be doing that to audiences, because reviews have been very, very strong with things like, no spoiler alert, but you got to watch this film. And I think they can say no spoiler alert because it's not spoon-fed to you. So it operates on a lot of levels, and for really what was made on a shoestring, I think is a really cool, beautifully shot movie, like really cool.
Yeah, just like I said, the just watching the trailer, when we'll put the trailer up in the show notes, we'll put a link to the trailer if you want to check it out. Just very stylistic, really draws you in. Like I said, just pulls you in as you're watching. I was kind of found myself starting back here, and as I was watching the video, I start kind of noticing I'm leaning in more. It's one of those, captures you very quick. It's great.
Ready to come.
I love it. Joshua Bitton, thanks so much for your time today. Have a great rest of the night.
You too, my friend. Take care.
Thank you. And we're going to take our next commercial break. We are going to come right back, and we'll be talking with composer Dino Menigan, so please stand by.
Okay, Slippery. This is the end of the line.
Almost got away, Marshal, if it weren't for that lightning fast horse of yours. Where'd you get him?
You can get Mattel's Blaze wherever toys are sold.
And just wait till Dad sees how easy it is to set up. Just pop him out of the box, spread the stand, and tighten just one bolt. That's all there is to it. And see how safe and solidly built Blaze is. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Into the deepest jungles went Pressman toy makers looking for something new. The secret they brought back for you is incredible. The Pressman Witch Doctor Head Shrinkers Kit. Plastic flesh, mixing cauldron, and petrifying potion. Just pour it into the mold, and in minutes you can add monster hair. Paint it with a coloring kit included, or make up your own decorations. In 24 hours, the heads shrink down. Now, shrunken heads for all occasions. Collect them, swap them, give them to your witch doctor friends. You can always cook up more with Pressman's Witch Doctor Head Shrinkers Kit.
My name's Snubby Gun. This is my beat. My game, I'm a private eye. Call me anytime. After school, that is. When I play private eye, I come fully equipped with Mattel Snub Nose 38, snap draw shoulder holster, and the fastest wheels in town. When you play private eye, you have to be fast. Fast on your feet, and fast on the draw. Ready for action on a moment's notice.
Services and taxes
Practice
for our
target.
local communities. I encourage you to shop local whenever possible.
Hi, this is Michelle Nichols, and you're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek To Me Radio. Want to make sure we tell you about our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. Go to there. You can find the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern location closest to you. Buy your tickets right there online. See trailers for the upcoming movies. Just went and saw The Courier yesterday. Brilliant film with Benedict Cumberbatch. If you get a chance to see that, Raya and the Last Dragon's out. A lot of good movies out. And you want to make sure you support the movie theaters because we appreciate them that they're here and that they're opening back up. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel from the COVID. Hopefully things will get back to more of a normal. But Marcus Theaters has gone above and beyond to make things clean and safe for you to go see a movie at one of their locations, Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern. Download the app. You can get your concessions right there in the app as well. So it's a contactless experience to make it more streamlined for you. Check out the website, MarcusTheaters.com. Pick a movie out and go see a movie. Best movie-going experience in the galaxy, in my opinion, MarcusTheaters.com. Our next guest is with us on the line, and now that we've got the technical aspect figured out, hopefully I'll be able to hear him. I had trouble with Joshua on the last segment. Dino, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks very much. Thanks for your time today. Talking about the composition work scoring Dota Dragon's Blood for Netflix out on March 25th. Are you an anime fan at all, or how much research did you do to get into the mindset to compose this?
Well, in doing this, we actually we actually have there's a few spots where we sort of very consciously reference some anime classics, but part of what we were trying to do with the score for this show was actually, we wanted to kind of avoid what might be like a conventional fantasy score. So we sort of just said, what happens if we just take this story and just put a completely different frame around it from how you might typically approach a score like this. And what we ended up with was a really electronic score, an electronic heavy score. There is still, some traditional orchestration, but a lot of the orchestration actually is electronic. And we really consciously wanted to do that to sort of give the show a space of its own, and to allow people who weren't familiar with the Dota world to kind of have a clean slate to go in on it, so that they wouldn't just sort of come in and go, okay, well, it's a fantasy thing, I don't really dig trolls or whatever, and then just bail on it. We kind of wanted to give people a chance to give it a second look.
And the people at White Bear sent me over a link.
Lore on Amazon. And when we met and talked about Dota, he explained it to me. And in fact, there's a lot. I had not been aware of the Dota world. It was the first I had heard of it. It just I hadn't crossed paths with it. And he tried to explain the whole thing to me, and I came home and my wife Candace said, well, what's the show about? And I said, I don't know. I said, I think there's some elves and I think there's a dragon maybe. But at that point, we were talking about it, and both Ashley and I really share a love of John Carpenter movies. And on synth heavy scores, we referenced the score that Goblin did for Suspiria, all the stuff that Tangerine Dream did. And that was like, I'm a huge Kraftwerk fan. And so, there was an element of wanting to, without sort of having like a throwback score, there's an element that I really love about some of those, 80s, both horror and mainstream, electronic scores. And so when we talked about the show, I said, let me just give you some ideas. Do you have an animatic? Do you have pictures? Do you have something? And I got a rough animatic of the scene that ended up being that Crystal Cave scene. And I said, okay, what if we did it like this? And that was really kind of, I think, what solidified my place with the team.
It's always fascinating too, because obviously we know that actors go through, an auditioning process and everything like that. And I always wonder, composers, I assume in many ways it's the same way. They're either people are familiar with your work and ask you to submit, or like you just said, you come in and you kind of present something to them based on drawings you've seen and images like that. So it was kind of more the latter for you on this project then.
Yeah, I mean, and plus, I had met Ashley working on another show, so he already kind of knew how I work, and kind of the show that we met on. Lore was an anthology show, so every week was a completely different style. So that was kind of interesting because he got to hear a whole bunch of different stuff. And that was kind of fortunate because, it's just, you don't normally when you work with somebody on a show, they hear you doing, whatever, you kind of come up with that show. And so, but yeah, I mean, there's a, usually, somebody might say, if somebody you work with might say, hey, I would love to have you on this, but usually there's 3 or 4 other people that also have to come on board, and you have to get the studio on board. And so, usually there's this was actually, kind of a long process of me kind of showing that Studio Mir and showing Netflix and everybody kind of trying to sell them on my concept. And eventually, Ashley was a huge advocate for me because he really liked the idea. He didn't want to go with he really liked the kind of the idea that we had come up with together.
And when you're working on more, I don't want to say more reality-based, because stuff like Teen Wolf is kind of a fantasy aspect to it. And then lore that you mentioned, when you're going into an anime realm, all animated, do you approach that process any differently than you would doing a live action, or is it still the same basic type of job to you as far as what you're doing?
That's a great question. And actually, I mean, this is the first animated thing I had done. And really, and then when you go to a spotting session, they'll say, okay, this is the temporary music.
Necessarily say, because you mentioned the difference between doing like an episodic thing versus a full streaming, you wouldn't say it was an easier process or a harder process, just a very different process, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, to a certain extent, I feel like the standards are, when you have more time, the standards are higher. I mean, they're always high. I mean, it's just, the standards are always high. I think my standards for myself get higher because, I just, if we have, 2 weeks to do an episode as opposed to 1 week, I want it to be that much better, Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a different process. It's similar. And, I thought animation was going to be a lot different. It's really not. At least in a show like this, we're not doing, if we were doing something that was more cartoony, then yeah, that would be, that's a different style. But this, we score this exactly the same way as we would score a live action show.
And obviously we kind of cover superheroes and things like that here. So talking about your origin story, is this what you thought you'd be doing when you went, all the schooling you went through and everything? Did you see yourself composing for film and television? Is that kind of, composers, I always feel they love music. Obviously they're musicians. They want to tell stories with music, but that's not necessarily where they envision themselves. But here they are, because it's, it ends up, it's lucrative work. There's a lot of it to be done. Is this where you kind of saw yourself back in the day?
No, I actually, originally I was a sideman. I was a guitarist for hire, and I played with, a bunch of different groups. I loved doing it. And I, at a certain point, just said, okay, I want to get off the road and not be touring and doing that. I want to be in one place. And I was, at the time, I'd sort of gotten involved in doing, I was trying to do music for advertising because that can be very lucrative. And I had some friends who were doing really well doing it. And I had a little bit of success, but not a ton. And so I ended up creating a music library, and through that I ended up meeting some folks at MTV, and that was how I met Laura Webb, who was the music supervisor on Taking the Stage, which was a reality show I ended up being a music producer on. And then she ended up getting the job for Teen Wolf, and she said, hey, do you want to submit a reel for this? And it just so happened that I had sort of done a few sort of cinematic sounding kind of things for ads, and I submitted those and ended up talking to Jeff Davis, and that was how I got the job. And at the time, I really had no desire to be a film and television composer. I didn't really know everything that was involved, but I said, well, it seems like a good job, and if I hate it, I'm only going to do it for one season. And then I can go back on the road. Yeah. But, as soon as we started doing it, it was kind of like I ended up finding the thing that I'd been looking to do. So it was, and I absolutely love it. Like, I can't, obviously I'm a guitar player and, kind of a synth nut, and, I love doing those things, and but I just having the chance to sort of help create a world. When I was a kid, I used to draw comic books, and I wanted to be a comic book artist. And I loved this idea of creating a world. And it wasn't until I got to actually, write for film that I understood how to do that with music. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, that's what this is. Oh, this is awesome.
and as the musician part of you, there's still part of you that probably misses just going out and playing in front of people. I mean, there's that live performance aspect of that you probably still carry with you. But even though you love what you're doing, do you still kind of have that pull that you want to go out and perform still in front of a live crowd? Or is it kind of like, that was kind of what I did now, and this is what I do now?
You know what it is? It's not, some of it is the crowd. I really miss, and part of this is a COVID thing too, because we can't go, it's hard to get into studios right now, although people are starting to do it. I really miss just interacting with other musicians. Crowds are great, but it's just having that live interaction, all of my interaction now with other musicians is on a screen. And it's, people are like, we're still making music, but I just miss sometimes I do miss being on a stage and having that interaction right in the moment. That is the one thing about being on the production end of things, is that, there is a temporal aspect of live performance where it's like, it's that, and it is what it was, and it's never going to happen that way again. And I'm in the business now of sort of creating these things over time, and sort of it's not, you're in a studio, you're creating things, and you can go back and fix something if it's messed up, and there's a little bit of that danger element of live performance that I think everybody who does it loves.
And as we're wrapping things up here, I want to make sure that people go to the website, DinoMenigan.com. We'll have a link to that in our show notes so you can hear samples of his work and things like that from his different projects. As we leave you here, tell people where they can find you on social media if people want to keep up with you and your work other than the website.
I'm on Twitter at DM_LA, and it's mostly pictures of dogs.
I love it already.
I do mention and by the way, your previous guest, I was looking at his, he has a lovely dog. He has a pit bull on his Twitter. I have 2 pit bulls. So
yeah, sweet dogs.
Yes.
And want to make sure too, you check out Dota Dragon's Blood on Netflix as of March 25th. Before we let you go, what was the best thing about this particular project for you?
Oh man, that's a tough. Let's see. Hang on. I'm trying to think of what is the best. Actually, the best thing, honestly, has been working with Ashley Miller because working with him is like a masterclass in writing and filmmaking. He has like 3 film podcasts of his own, and he is just a film nut. And every time we do a spotting session, it's like I get like a film course. So that's probably been every project you work on. If you're lucky, you get to learn something. And I learned so much doing Teen Wolf and Lore and Eye Candy and all the shows that I've done. And Ashley he just has such a deep knowledge of this stuff that it's just been, he's really changed. Just in the time we've worked together, I feel like he's kind of deepened the way I look at story. So
very cool. Well, we're very excited to see Dota Dragon's Blood. As I mentioned, Netflix on March 25th. Dino, Megan, it has been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me on.
Anytime. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
We're going to go to commercial break. We're going to be back with our very next guest, who is Yutaka Takeuchi, talking all about his upcoming film. It's debuting at CineQuest, Drive All Night. So stand by.
It's swell.
Creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers, creepy crawlers.
Now, you can make all kinds of lovely things like these with Mattel's wonderful Thing Maker. It makes creepy crawlers, spiders, lizards, snakes, dragonflies. Make them yourself with this nice plastic goop. Choose a mold, pour in the goop, heat it, and presto changeo, you've got bugs. Squiggly, squirty bugs. They feel so soft and natural. You get 4 different colors of goop and special paints. Make charming lizard pins or spider rings. You can collect them or spread them around. After all, they're fun for the entire family. Get Mattel's new Thing Maker with creepy crawlers. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
They're slugging it out in the middle of the ring. And there's a hard drive to the top. And Blue Bomber's block is knocked off. His block is knocked off?
Sure, but you can press it right back on again. It's just part of the action with the world's only boxing robots, the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx. Takes 2 managers to handle the fighters and lots of skill to win. With these control levers, you can keep your fighters in motion to duck punches. He throws a right uppercut. Press the other plunger, and there's a left jab. Lots of exciting action and fun for everyone when the world's only boxing robots battle it out.
The Blue Bomber's looking for an opening. And there it is. That's the end of round 2.
Just push the flying head back, and you're ready for round 3.
Boy, this is the greatest.
You bet. The world's only boxing robots. Get the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx.
Snow, rain, mud. Your car's bound to get dirty.
So give your car a car wash, make it look like new. Watch it in the car wash that lets you see right through. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash, that's the one for me.
Hey, Mr. Kelly!
Wax it beautifully.
Drive up the ramp, hook the chain, it runs by battery.
Clean, scrubs, and dries your car automatically.
Mr. Kelly's Automatic Car Wash. What a toy! From a hidden tank, fill overhead water tower, hook on car, throw switch, and automatically cars are wet down, scrubbed all over, and dried while you watch. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash comes with 2 late model cars, car wax, towels, sponges, and even a sign.
Hey, Mr. Kelly, clean my car like new. Mr. Kelly's Car Wash lets you wax them too.
Every boy wants a Remco toy, and so do girls.
Mr. Kelly's Car Wash, that's the one for me.
Hey guys, this is Raoul Coley and I play Dr. Ravi Chakrabarti on the CW's iZombie, and you're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
I want to take this time to talk about our premier sponsor, and that would be the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know them from the website discoverstcharles.com. The premier sponsor, they've been with me since the beginning, since I started this show back in 2016. First people to jump on board and say they were all about backing it, and they've been with me ever since. We're starting to see the end of the light with the COVID. Hopefully things are starting to ramp back up to normal. So maybe you just want to get outdoors, because that's something we can all do, get some exercise. We can enjoy the sun. You can go to Frontier Park. You can bike ride the Katy Trail. If you don't have a bike, you can rent one from Bike Stop Cafe. Lots of places to eat. A lot of these places, these small places in St. Charles along Main Street, have been doing curbside pickup. So you need to get out and support these local small eateries and businesses. Check their website, see if they do the curbside pickup, and support these places so they can stay open. That's one of the things we can all do as a community to help other people. Go to the website, discoverstcharles.com. You can get all the information, plan your trip. If you're coming in from out of town, maybe you want to stay, get a change of scenery with everything going on with now that COVID's kind of opening things back up slowly. Plan the trip. If you're here locally, you already know how wonderful it is, but go check it out anyway. discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Right now, we're going to go to our final guest. We saved the best for last, of course. A gentleman I've been a fan of for a while, and hopefully I'm not butchering the last name. It's Yutaka Takeuchi?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. My teachers would be so proud that I pronounced the name correctly, because I got points off for bad pronunciation. But thank you so much for your time tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Talking about Drive All Night, which is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, CineQuest Film Festival it started yesterday. It goes through March 30th. But the style of this film, I love the way it looks. It's beautifully shot. It's very intriguing. Talk a little bit about your experience as part of this film.
So this movie is called neo-noir. And I didn't know that genre until I worked on the project. It's really a dreamlike, surrealistic movie. And my experience on set is, well, basically I worked like day and night and day, and stuck in a room and with the dark curtains all around. And so I really, it helped me being in a surrealistic world. Yeah.
And it's just the way the film is shot. It has there's all sorts of elements that I notice. It's got the kind of like you said, the noir film, obviously, but there's intrigue elements, there's drama, there's all sorts. It's almost like an actor's dream role, I would think, with all these different aspects you get to play with.
Yes, it has a romance and thriller in it. And it would be ideal for me personally if there's an action for me, myself. Because there's some actions, but not for me. So I'd love to do some actions.
So was it a different feel for you? Did you have to is it kind of, Tony, because you've been in a lot of action movies. Obviously, we loved you in Defenders. I'm a huge Marvel Comics guy, so that was great to see you show up in that. And you work with Sigourney Weaver and Charlie Cox and all those people. But was it something, a new muscle for you to work to kind of hold back on the action part and focus on these other things? Or
no, I mean, I'm not an action exclusively doing the action kind of actor. No, I'm saying like in Defenders, definitely I did some actions, but for the rest of the projects that I've worked on before, I really didn't do any actions. I just enjoyed for the first time doing action in the Defenders. That's why I started getting into it. But in Drive All Night, the interesting thing is that for the principal photography, I basically really got stuck in, on set for the whole time, but that helped.
Yeah. And you've got some great co-stars in this too, Lexi Hammonds, Sarah Dumont, and things like that. When I assume that when you're an actor and you've got the experience under your belt that you've got for different projects, you always still learn stuff from other people you work with and from new directors who were over your projects and everything. From this particular movie, from Drive All Night, what do you think would be, if you had to pick something new you've learned from working on this film, what would it be that you added to your actor's tool belt?
Wow. I mean, I'm sure there must have been a lot. But especially with Peter, the director, he was really generous. He was so open to my ideas. I threw, sometimes maybe really stupid ideas, but he he still listened and, at least try once. And if it worked, he took it. But if it didn't, he didn't. But those are really, I really appreciated the giving me such an opportunity to explore something that I have never done before. So that was I really enjoyed it.
And working on some of the movies we talked about USS Indianapolis before, which was a big movie. We just had Joshua Bitton on talking about how the World War II type movies somehow have, and again, I'm using the wrong word when I say revered, but there is that kind of level of World War II type history and the romanticism is not the right word, but when you have a movie you're taking on when you're doing a historical drama like that, that's got to, I would think, weigh heavily on an actor's shoulders. Did you find that to be the case here?
Yeah, with me Drive All Night?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, with USS Indianapolis.
Yeah, USS Indianapolis. Yes, in general, I mean, you might be able to tell that I'm a Japanese. And sometimes, not sometimes, in general, I try not to carry that responsibility that I'm, being a Japanese and I have to be Japanese kind of thing. I don't really think that way. But with that specific project, just because it happened for real, and I play the person who actually was there and then fought in the World War II. So I just had to take a certain degree of responsibility. But because of that, I really did a lot of research as much as I could and prepared as much as I could. And I happened to I was able to talk to one of the submarine crew who actually was in the submarine.
Wow.
And I found his phone number and I called his home in Japan. He was back then, 80 something? Because when he was in submarine, he was like 16 years old. He was carrying the Captain Hashimoto, which I played, Captain Hashimoto's bag or something. But anyway, so I asked him exactly what happened in that event. And he explained to me step by step, very calmly, without dramatizing it, which was really fascinating. I was blown away. I basically being quiet and kept listening to it. But I really, it was such a great experience as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. That I love historical type stuff anyway, and I assume that's kind of a nice thing as an actor. You've got resources to draw upon. Where obviously, if you're given a brand new character and you're creating the world in something like Drive All Night, you get to kind of create this from scratch versus playing a historical character. Do you have a preference one way or the other? Or is it all just an actor's playground?
I like both.
Yeah.
But in terms of the research, I mean, I like to learn new things like everyone else does. So when I play the real person, depends on what kind of person it is. But sometimes I can access to many materials, and I can read and I can learn so much about the person or the time he lived. So those are also I like that too.
And I got to come back to Defenders again. I'm such a huge fan. The level of detail that the Marvel Cinematic Universe puts in all their projects and everything like that. How was just the fights alone? I would have a hard time learning lines for acting stuff, much less than you have to put fight choreography and stuff on top of that. How intensive was the process for just filming like a single episode? If you got fight and lines, how long does it usually take? How much effort was it, and how much fun was it?
Well, how much fun was it? It was really fun. But I have to say, I have to give a really credit to the stunt team. I did some actions, but not the hard ones. And every hard action was done by my stunt double. And not only me, but also all the cast. They had stunt doubles. And those stunt guys, stunt women, they were amazing. Seriously, I don't know how to describe it. They were real heroes, actually, to me.
Yeah. And it's got to be fun, too. Like I said, some actors have a preference, and I'm not sure if you found this to be true, but obviously Defenders, you're playing a villain. Drive All Night, you're more or less the hero of the piece, really.
Right.
You kind of drive the action. Do you have a preference one way there? A lot of people say the villain is much more fun to play. Do you have a preference?
Well, it depends on the story. As long as the story itself is interesting, intriguing, and I personally, I don't have a preference at this moment. As far as the story is interesting.
That's, I guess, helps you, if you as an actor find the story interesting, that helps you deliver a more genuine performance, I would take it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, Drive All Night is going to be, I assume it's going to be coming out as soon as it's done. It's run at the Cinequest Film Festival. It goes, as we mentioned, March 20th through March 30th. Was it one of those things you're looking forward to, having the big theatrical release for this, and then COVID kind of knocked those plans out, or was this, how's that?
Well, my hope is really, as soon as possible, the film festival. I like to go and attend the film festival and feel the live audience in person. I really miss that, and hopefully, that'll happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, and if you're listening right now, definitely add Drive All Night to your list. Make sure you check it out when it does come out. Before I let you go, if you wouldn't mind, we don't usually do this on the video because we normally do it off air, but I'm going to do it now anyway. If you could, for our celebrities, we always ask that you give us a tagline from when we come back from a commercial break. So if you could just say, "Hi, this is your name," and you want to embellish it with anything you want to say, and you're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
Okay.
Whenever you're
so
ready.
Just say whenever. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Yutaka Takeuchi. My new feature film called Drive All Night has come out actually at the Cinequest, and you can see online between March 20th through 30th. So please check it out. And you're listening to Geek To Me Radio.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much for your time today. Huge fan. Continued success to you, and I'd love to have you back on again soon if you get the chance.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Take care. And
You
that's
too.
going to wrap up our show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the end of the broadcast. I want to make sure I thank all my guests. Joshua Bitton, check out The Tangle. And we also want to have you check out Dota Dragon's Blood on Netflix. And, of course, Drive All Night. Yutaka was just talking about that film. Make sure you go to Amazon. We have a link in our show notes. Anything you buy on Amazon, we get a small proceed from that. Thank you, as always, to Joey V for making the sound as good as it does. And until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch a zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's a show. This is Geek To Me Radio. That's a show. This is Geek To Me Radio.
Thank you, Cinequest Film Festival. Good night.